Okay, well, welcome everyone, and welcome Cate Zoltan to our discussion today about the Undo app. And we're going to get introspective, and we're going to talk about, what different forms of meditation are, why do we need to do this? How does it tie in the holistic natural mind of health and well-being, wellness to, stop what you're doing and really go inside and be still, because this world is so doer, it's so outward focused, and there's so many goals and achievements on the outside world, right, that we think we have to do. But I don't, and then there's so many emotional problems and so much anger and discordance in this world that seems to be getting more. And where everyone seems to be seeking answers for their health, for their well-being, mental, emotional, spiritual issues come up through this, but people are still seeking and not finding. And so this app presents a solution to a lot of these issues. So welcome, Cate, and let's get into it and talk about this app and sort of how this brainchild came together, and a little bit of the backstory and history. I'm sure my viewers would be very interested in all of that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Amanda. It's great to be here, and hello to everybody who's listening. So the backstory behind the app is I actually met Matthew because I had some mental health issues when I was around about 27. And so a friend of mine suggested I go on a meditation retreat that he was actually running. And so that's when I first started meditating with this particular type of meditation, which we eventually coined natural meditation. So Matthew was a monk from his late teens through to around about 27. He saw through the hypocrisy. So he was a yogi monk in Australia and India, and he was moving through the order quite quickly because he was a really good problem solver within the order. So they used to send him around to all the different monasteries throughout Australia and India. And then he started seeing the hypocrisy of the order in terms of the hierarchy. And so he started questioning them about some of the religious and dogma aspects of the approach they were having to the meditation. And eventually they expelled him for this. So they didn't want to answer the questions, and they just weren't, it just wasn't cutting it for him. So he was expelled from the order. And then after this, he didn't really know what to do. So the only thing he knew really well was like body massage, so body work. So he opened a clinic in Western Australia. And over the years of running it, he had one of the busiest clinics in Australia. And over the years, he started seeing patterns in the different areas of the body where he was massaging. So what was happening was the people were talking to him about their problems in their lives, but it was while he was massaging a particular area of the body that he noticed there was these patterns that they kept talking about the same thing in the same area of the body. So this was in around about the early 90s. So he was the pioneer, and he discovered the body-mind connection in Australia. So at the same time, I think it was Louise Hay at around about the similar time, which is quite often what happens in the world as well. Somebody discovers something on one side of the world and somebody else on the other. So he discovered that in Australia in the early 90s. So what we've done, or we've actually done, is create like a body mind section in the app as well, so people can reconnect their body and mind. We treat mental illness and physical illness as one, and it's a really great education in the app that expands on this. It's really like a course where people can just get a really great deep understanding of the body mind connection. So that's the actual app. But the backstory behind that also was because I had mental illness. I also had gone to Matthew for help, and I discovered that I had been abused as a child. So what happened is I was working very closely with Matthew, but during that period of my healing, I also realized that the information that he was teaching others and teaching me was the vital information that it's like the essence of the essence of nature and the understanding that you need to get you through life in terms of guiding, allowing your body to guide you in how you should live your life, and also for recovering your unique individuality. So during this period, that was like 23 years ago or something, I've just realized we've got to get this information out there. It's too valuable for us to just, have over in Western Australia. So consequently, we ended up building the app so that we could get it out to a broader market, and also a bigger market as well. So at the moment, I'm in Estonia at the moment, and that was the reason we actually moved over to Estonia. And I've been living here for the last 6 years, and quite enjoying it. So
yeah, that's really important work, a body of work. And it's fascinating. I noticed the correlation between when we're disconnected. So when we're emotionally disconnected inside of ourselves, how we begin to manifest things as physical symptoms. And this is well known in a lot of different healing arts. Like my lineages were more so into different forms of Reiki and hands-on healing. And of course, as you're doing that, what's happening is those people are finally getting a chance to be quiet, to have no other stimulation, and to be able to integrate an energy that they've somehow segregated away from themselves, usually due to conditioning of the world, right? Where you have expectations of how you're supposed to behave or how you're supposed to process a grief, for one example, right? And if those parts of us keep getting separated out and compartmentalized, then we lose ourselves, and then we seek outward, help me energies, right? Like, help me. I know I'm feeling something inside that's unsettling, and I need to manifest some help. And people will go to these aspects of like desperation. I'll see a lot of fibromyalgia cases, for example, right? And there's always an emotional connection to, no matter what the physical condition is, it's always there. And what I find fascinating is, this is why, what your point was, to get clear, with yourself as to your direction and how you're going to integrate that, because it can come from all different manners and avenues. So some person might say, oh, I need to clean up my diet. I need to clean up my diet. And in doing that, they're loving themselves, and they're able to take that to the next level of integration, right? Where then, as they're healing, the emotion begins to come forward for them to feel it and own it and reintegrate it. And then it might be the other way, where someone needs to just express the emotion through dance or through song or something like that. But then they find that their shoulder pain goes away, or these sorts of things. So I always find there's many paths to get there, but the simplest is just to really be quiet and actually feel your feelings, which is what I see a lot in the app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally right. The basis of the whole app really is, or this approach actually, because it's a whole approach. It's not just about the app. I'm sort of creating a whole platform for natural meditation, because it's, as I mentioned, it's a new type of meditation. Most people actually don't know the difference between the different meditations. They just think meditation is this one thing and it's all about the mind, but there's actually very many different types of meditation. But with this particular meditation, it's like I said, it's a body first meditation, and we're really just getting people to reconnect, so connect back with themselves, and to not avoid their feelings, not distract from their feelings, and actually learn to feel again. Because most people actually, they think they feel, but they're not actually feeling. They're just literally thinking about the feelings, and they're still slightly separated from them. As you would see in your clinic, it's a big deal these days, especially with the technology that's available. There's just so much input into our systems, and the body is just not keeping up, so it's really valuable information for people to really learn to feel. And if you feel your feelings, then you resolve your feelings. Once you've resolved those feelings, then you move on, so you're able to really recover really rapidly and really quite easily. And as you progress through the learnings of this natural meditation approach, you're actually meditating like virtually all day, every day. So you come to the end of the day and you're not just exhausted and somebody dies, or there's grief, or you have a relationship breakup or a loss or something, you can just process it as you continue on with your life, and there's no distraction from the feeling itself. I mean, surely it's going to be intense, but you can still manage to sustain your life, continue with your life, and maintain that consistency of your life. And you don't get these ups and downs and fluctuations, because you're just really just feeling your feelings, the inside of yourself, all day, every day. And that was a really good point you made earlier as well, about everything's from the outside in, whereas with this approach, you really are coming from yourself. You're understanding yourself really deeply, really deep from the inside of yourself. So it's an inside out approach. You're not actually adding anything to yourself. All you're doing is getting in touch with these feelings that are inside of you, and allowing those feelings, or your body, if you like, to speak to you, and you learn to understand and recognize. And that in that way, you're using yourself, your uniqueness and your individuality to guide you and assist you with problems and issues or illness or pains that you've got in your life. Their pains and illness are just your body screaming at you, telling you to stop, or you're doing something. There's something you're doing in your life that isn't the way that you should be living your life for your particular person. So yeah, it's a really interesting approach. Yeah.
And to just highlight the fact that this is a natural method, meaning what is being allowed to happen is a natural part of you, a natural mechanism being allowed to reset the system, right? We're not trying to put something on. It's like you're trying to just let it work, let this natural system do its job and get out of the way of it. And so it will help you reset that and integrate that. Is that about right?
Yeah, totally. Because your body is or nature, actually. I shouldn't even say that your body, but nature. The only thing it wants to do is be its optimal self. As soon as you cut yourself, you start healing. And all that is your body trying to return to the optimal you. So this meditation literally just puts you in contact with yourself, with the feelings in your body and all the sensations in your body. And at the same time, because you're getting out of the way and you're not adding anything to yourself, it actually activates the natural healing process within the body. So it's like a self-healing, super deep meditation, if you like. Yeah. And so you can, it's just, I think that explains it.
Yeah, because a lot of people think, oh, now I'm going to have to learn something else and do another overlay. But it's really, that's why it's an undo, right? It's actually the opposite. Yeah, you're like not doing the things you have been doing. And when you allow those natural processes to happen, you get obviously new information, new direction, fresh direction, and then you're being directed from within your own natural system rather than trying to find something outside that's going to help you to heal or get, more energy or whatever you're looking for. You're actually your own self-direction. And that's what, we're both about. Like, I teach people to be their own doctors. Right. And this is solves so many issues, because as practitioners, we get really burnt out with all of the grasping and help me energies, and people not sure of themselves. So they need like someone to tell them it's okay and someone to give them step-by-step instructions. But if they were to actually work with this natural mechanism and allow those releases and integration, their intuition would come back and they would be able to go, oh yeah, I know I'm supposed to not take this or eat this or drink this. I know I'm supposed to do these things now. I'm excited about it. I have newfound energy about it. And that trust is very empowering inside oneself. And so that I find really important in this day and age where so many people are chronically, in imbalance.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And that was actually one of the really one of the main reasons I wanted to contact you, because I could see that you had that in you, that same approach that we're having in the app, where what we're literally trying to do is decondition the person. Because from childhood through, as soon as you're born, you're just constantly told by either influences outside of you, from your parents, from the government, from society, just culture. All of these things are literally just teaching you to not be who you are. So whether you're told to not cry when you're a child, or don't cry, or pick yourself up and keep going, or you've got to be goal oriented and you need to be better. All of these things, they impact the body and they impact the way that you then live your life. And so part of what we're teaching people too actually is a lot to do with not judging yourself, how to recognize beliefs, how to take advantage of the triggers of your body. And like you're always saying that the pain in your body is telling you something about your system. So just really understanding, reading and listening to what your body has to say. So in that regard, we're very much aligned on what we're offering people.
And even like people say, okay, well, what about really deep trauma, right? Like childhood trauma, as you had sort of alluded to, or things where we formed a bunch of mechanisms around the trauma or the grief, and those are like crutches for us. So how do we, how does this sort of meditation technique help us like throw away the crutches and actually integrate those experiences that could have happened at a very young age?
Yeah, so it's the same as I mentioned. There's a consistent approach all the way through this, and it always just comes back to feeling. So what people generally don't understand is that feelings are the things that run our lives. So you turn up to work in the morning and you've got a list of jobs to do, and there's a few there on the list that you don't want to do, so you avoid them for the rest of the day, or you leave them until next week. You start procrastinating about them. That's actually a feeling that is driving that. So people don't understand that it's feelings that are driving us. So if you stop doing that, if you stop avoiding doing things that you think that you don't want to do, then what that's going to do is trigger the feeling more deeply in your body and then allow you to feel that feeling. So it's literally just doesn't matter whether it's a simple problem or a deep trauma, the solution is the same. You literally just have to work your way through all of the feelings that you avoid or distract from or don't like, the feeling of that your body is constantly causing as a disturbance within yourself. And then you literally just have to feel them. Some of them might take 5 minutes. Some of them might take, I don't know, a year or 2 years, because they're so intense because of the abuse that you have suffered or the trauma that you've suffered. But ultimately, that's kind of like the beauty of this approach, is it doesn't matter how deep or how light the trauma is. The approach is the same. It's just the hard part of it is that there's a lot of confusion also in that. So at times your thinking, your perception of things will change. But if you can manage to just stay with the feelings inside of you, then the confusion also gets burnt out with the resolution of the feeling. So it's the same approach the whole way through. Yeah.
And really what you're trying to do is locate that sensation in the body. Where are you holding? And that's part of the connection, right? And I know there's a lot of techniques that do this now, which, as you said, things came up at around the same time. It was like the need for this was like blossoming and people were picking up on it who were in tune. And that in order for us to really own it and integrate it, we have to hold it. Like I said this, in my own meditation practice, so I really did the Vipassana lineage, but like you have to really go and scan your body. I mean, the whole Vipassana at first is just feeling breath at your nose. That's it, because you're trying to connect the sensations together. And so if you're trying to, like, I like the meditations in the app, just say the heart, let's focus on the heart and what you're feeling right there and what that's even about and what does that mean for you and what is the heart action and all of these things, so you can connect through the organ, and which in traditional Chinese medicine they've understood those connections since eternity, right? Like, I mean,
totally.
where's your joy? Do you enjoy life? And if you don't, be time for meditation to really question your heart and question those things in your life and find that spot, feel it, and then go into the feeling. Just like with childbirth. I mean, people want to run away from the pain,
Yeah.
but actually, if you go into, you go into the sensation, and when you go into the pain, you go through it and you integrate it. And so then it can become, you can have orgasmic birth rather than a painful, stressful birth, right? And this is
Yeah.
very powerful knowledge.
Yeah, it is. And the slight difference I would say that with Vipassana is that with natural meditation, you're not really going looking for feelings. You're really just getting back into your body and letting whatever feelings surface. So there's no goal attached to it. There's no, kind of success metric. You can't really do it wrong. It's whatever it is for you on that day, whether it feels shit or whether it feels okay. It makes no difference. That whatever your meditation is that day, without judgment, that's just what it was for that day. So in that regard, there's like literally you're not trying to push anything. You're just really, as it's called, natural, just naturally letting whatever feelings are surfacing within your body, and they're the ones you're feeling that day, and they will come and go and change. And yeah, so it's not, there's no achievement factor there, or no goal, or trying to be better, or trying to push harder and feel them more than you can actually feel them. So yeah, in that way, it's a more fulfilling, I would say, and satisfying meditation, because there's no struggle, and there's no, not that there's no purpose, but there's no, what's the word, there's no, yeah, you're just not trying to achieve anything. So you're not giving yourself a hard time. You're not attacking yourself or trying to be anything different than you actually are.
Right. And then you can avoid what, others and your husband experienced in other meditation practices, which is almost like a cult like behavior that happens to the Sangha or the group of practitioners, where like in Vipassana, you're trying to reach Bhanga, which is like a state of no-thingness, right? Where you're not even connected to your body at all at that point. Your body actually dissolves, right? But then you can get to, did you reach Bhanga today?
Yeah.
Because if not, you didn't do it right. This, or getting
Yeah.
kicked out because you're not going along with also the back philosophy that comes, or the social ethics that come with, these types of meditation practices, because there's no end goal other than your own integration and healing. Then there's no competition, and no one is doing it right or wrong. You're just letting a natural process take form and giving the space to do that, rather than all of these other constructs that end up in books and things that are just so complicated. Yeah. It's way more simple.
We get so many people coming to us who've been using, like the Vipassana or mindfulness, all of these techniques. And they end up coming to us because there's a couple of things that happen with them, is that they think that they're doing it wrong. And they also think that they can't stop the overthinking, but they also plateau. So the problem that we're finding with the technique-based meditations is that it's not actually, the people blame themselves for not being able to do it properly, when in actual fact, it's not them who are doing anything wrong. It's the technique that is wrong. So with technique and thought-based meditations, the way I tend to describe it is, it's like you can either be looking at a hot, warm bath, or you can be in the bath. So with the techniques and these thought-based meditations, you're literally looking at the bath. And the same with like a breathing technique or visualization technique, you're literally thinking about your breathing, which you don't need to, because you're feeling it anyway in your body. You're in touch with your breathing, no matter, if you're not breathing, you're dead. So it's impossible not to be in touch with your breathing. And so, but with natural meditation, it's like you're fully immersed in the bath and you're experiencing it. And that's the same with the body. You not experience yourself. You not experience your body if you're alive, that is. But consequently, we are alive. So you don't really have any choice. So, yeah, so that's how I tend to describe the difference between the thought-based meditations and this particular meditation. It's a very experiential, more meditation than people have ever probably tried before. And because it's so simple, people just take it up really easily and they just start getting the benefits, straight away. Yeah, like I spoke to a lady yesterday who did one of the meditations last night in the app. She said she hadn't been sleeping very well and she's got a really tight jaw. And she said even just after one meditation, she did it before she went to sleep, she had a really good night's sleep and woke up in the morning and her jaw was a lot less tense. So it's like an instant effect. So, yeah.
Well, like the majority of disease states that progress, are related to stress. And when you feel disconnected from yourself, or that feeling of something's wrong, you might not be able to put your finger on what it is exactly, or something feels unfinished, there's like a low level stress that's happening in the body. And that's contributing to furthering disease states and degrading of your own life force. So to be able to address that and then relieve that is really, something that is so simple yet so often overlooked or put in a category of, irrelevancy almost because of the doership world that we're in.
Yeah, I know. And it's passed off. That's what that is. It's kind of a big problem for us actually trying to promote this as as a new type of meditation, because people look at it and they just think, oh, that's too easy, or it's too ordinary. Like, this isn't going to do anything. It's too simple. And surely I'm feeling all the time. So why do I need to learn how to feel more? So yeah, it kind of gets passed off as not being as valuable as it really is because it's so simple. But if you're looking at mental health, you can't fight mental health with more thoughts about it, because mental health is really just your mind. Your thoughts and your thinking are just messing with you. You're in a state of confusion, and there's many different causes for that. But if you try and like fight a fire with fuel, you're not going to win. So the same with mental health. You can't resolve a mental health issue by analyzing it, talking about it, thinking about it. You've got to literally go beneath thought so that you can just get yourself back into your body, into a grounded, stable state, so that the thinking can just go on, and you've got you're grounding yourself in your body and not allowing the thinking to take over and to just mess with you even more. So yeah, it's an interesting approach from that perspective. Is by getting yourself back into the body and using feeling as the basis of your life and the foundation of you, then the thinking and the thoughts, they kind of become irrelevant. You don't have to sort of pay that much attention to them. And by not giving them the attention that they're demanding, which is basically just the nature of thought. If there's the nature of thought is to promote more thought, but if you don't give it that fuel, as I mentioned, then it can't win. So you win by just being in your body and just ignoring all that stuff, basically, and starting to see through the confusion of the perception that it's creating, that's making you think things that aren't real. So yeah.
Yeah, especially in overthinking states. Like I know my own weaknesses, and sometimes I allow myself actually to go fully into my experiences to just, it's the healer's path. So I tend to go all the way into things, not
you've
always.
got to have a look, don't you?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, it's super fun, but you go all the way. And so, there's a danger there for healers too, because you can get stuck in
Definitely.
the situation. So one of the ones that was really tough for me was the overthinking, because I'm always teaching, which means the brain is always going, but really it's like the enemy of intuition, the thinking. And so so there's like, when I'm in that, I'm really didactic and I get really, detail oriented and this kind of thing.
Mm.
And there can be a place for that when you're really trying to dissect something or whatever. But then if you want to bring it home, you have to then stop rumination and actually now feel if that's all correct. And you go back
Mm.
over it with like the fresh waters of your own conscious awareness. Okay, well, that necessary? It's like the Adam and Eve story, right? Where Eve takes the apple and eats it, of like knowledge, and that knowledge has been our downfall, has been actually our problem, because of the thinking, because we didn't really need to actively think like that. We just needed to listen to all of the things that were naturally there, and we clog ourselves by this overthinking. And there's one, I know in the app there's a discussion about overthinking, and I like that there's Q&A sort of in there,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
common questions will come up, right? Where like, okay, what
Yeah.
about this? What about that? So I like that there is a didactic teaching aspect too, just because, sometimes you have to unlearn the certain thinking patterns before you can really let them go and be okay and feel safe to go into the feeling. And
Yeah.
because we're so used to the thinking all the time.
Yeah, totally. There's definitely that aspect to it. If you don't have the understanding that by feeling the feeling, you're not going to get drowned in that feeling. So yeah, that's why there is a very big educational aspect in the app, and there's a definite flow through the app as well, that it's been designed to, each chapter is designed to build on the next, so that whatever you've learnt in the previous chapter, just the understanding increases as you go through, and they all build on each other. Yeah, the way it's been written, and on the many different levels, there's all different nuggets in each chapter. And if you go through also, and we also suggest that users come through and redo the app twice, actually, because by the time you get to the end of the 13th chapter, you're so different to what you were when you first started. So by coming back and doing it again, because you can't, it's so rich and deep with information on so many different levels, that you can't take it all in the first time. So you go back around and do it again the next time, you've changed as well, and then you pick up all the nuggets that you missed in the first round of doing it. So yeah, it's really like deep with information as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, when you come in with all of your mentality where it's at and your lens, when you are studying it, you'll have judgments and all kinds of
Yeah.
ego triggers. And, oh, yeah, what does that guy know? And what, all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff that will
Yep.
happen. And so, and that's where like other practices sometimes have helped me, where I
Mm.
catch myself if I do, if the ego gets triggered by something, and I'm, oh, okay, you're judging or you're projecting, or, this sort of thing. So that's it wise to then go back again, because a lot of those defenses will be melted away by that point,
Mm.
and you'll be open to the next layer of the awareness, which will probably anchor, I would imagine,
Mm.
what you've just done, really
Yeah.
deep, because it is a method that's natural, but we're so unnatural. Like our behaviors and lifestyles are just so unnatural now
Mm.
that it's like foreign. Like natural is so weird and woo and foreign and this sort of thing. So that's a really good idea. And I like that it's structured to go like this way, like here's where you can go. I mean, if you want to bounce around, you still can. I did. I
Mm.
felt like I wanted to, but I was learning about the app, of course. But doing it through is one way to really just experience what the offerings are, and do the method. And it's that simple. So why
Yeah.
don't you tell us about what's the cost? How does the payments, system work, and how long do you get the app for, this sort of thing?
Yeah, so there's a 7-day free trial. You get the first 2 chapters are free, plus there's also, if you turn on notifications, there's really awesome original aphorisms that we send through as well, just to kind of keep you on track throughout the day. So that all comes with, like, as soon as you download and log in, and then you've got a 7-day free trial, and then there's either a monthly subscription, which, I don't know what it is in American or Canadian dollars, but in the euro it's about $8.50 a month. And then for annual subscription as well, you can do the annual subscription, which is about 90 euros per month. So it's reasonably priced, and I think, people don't really prioritize their health and their mental health, do they? Like, they're happy to go down the shop and buy a coffee, and if you do that 3 times a month, then there's the cost of the app. So it's not overly expensive. It's priced similar to competitors, and yeah, it just depends on how you prioritize your health. That's the way I kind of see it. But yeah,
And how much money like people spend on going to counseling.
Yeah, I know.
And
Yeah,
we're
like,
talking
yeah, easily. I don't know. I don't actually know. There's varying prices, but on average, it's probably about 120 an hour or something like this, isn't they? So yeah, it's got tons of information in there.
Yeah. And people have different values that have been warped by commercial conditioning, right? Fast food, eating out, going to shows, like all this, where they're actually paying to poison themselves with bad food,
Yeah.
paying to be further indoctrinated by the mainstream, shows and all these things, which are all implantation of their agenda. I
Yeah.
don't think there's really much pure out there anymore. They do the boiling frog method, right? Where they just slowly creep all of these ideas in and you don't notice. Like, people don't even notice what's going on in the world right now. But it's part and parcel to the fact that we're being used to create it. And so everyone wants to stop the insanity going on out there, but by fighting and screaming and yelling and protesting and all this sort of behavior. But when you're in that natural state, your creations change, your experiences change. You don't need the harsh feedback from the external projection to tell you're off anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so if
Yeah.
people want to change the world, this is how you do it. You go and heal yourself from within. And I preach this all the time, but people are like, okay, how and where and when and all these details. Well, here's one way right here, very simply.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were talking, that like you say, a human's idea of fun is to go out, like, say, to go to a party where, like you say, so you blast your eardrums with music, you drink alcohol, which is totally toxic to your system. You're in an environment that you can't really have intimate sort of conversation. And we call that fun, we stay out late, and that's what we're calling fun. It's like, yeah, it's very foreign, but I totally agree with you. It's just a condition or just some idea that somebody's implanted into us and said, this is what you need to do to have fun and go and relax. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that one.
And again, this has come over decades, conditioning and beliefs, that have been instilled in us as children. And, having to overcome that can feel really insurmountable for a lot of people. But it's simpler than that. And that's the good news, because we make it hard until we realize it's not. We make it difficult, and then what the answer was like, a whisper in a sentence, or a breeze in the or a moment of like calm or something, and then aha can, or the moment can come. And I find that life is like that. It's like harsh and hard until it becomes simple and regulated. And like the stream is rushing through the rocks, and then the rocks go away, and then you have a smooth, sheen, reflection, and clear path ahead. And not to also always be living in the future. Even when we're trying to do something, right? Like, okay, I'm writing another course. My goal is to finish the course, right? And we learned this in like Buddhist. I did a lot of Tibetan Buddhist style meditation. And in the Buddhism way is the now, right? Like, we're just trying to be present in each moment rather than always trying to hurry to get the goal, to get, that done. And that can be very overwhelming because you're not being present. You're not feeling what you're feeling now. You're projecting into the future of what you think it's supposed to look like, and that you have to get there. And there's all these expectations on you and stress to do that. And that can actually become a block to you finishing, because the overwhelm of that can stop you. And then you can get into this huge procrastination cycle where it's like, oh, it's too overwhelming. I can't, it's too emotional. Oh, I can't. And so the self-sabotage happens a lot. And so if you want to achieve your goals, it's not about working harder, stronger, faster, more, multitask better, this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. It's really, it might seem counterintuitive at the beginning, like, oh, I have so much to do. I don't have time to stop and sit and like do nothing or whatever.
Yeah.
This is programmed. You have to overcome that and then say, I'm allowing myself to do this. I deserve this. I'm a pure soul inside, and I deserve to have peace, and prosperity will come through this avenue rather than the ideology of working harder, to achieve something. And then your intuition is way more in alignment. You're way less likely to fumble, make huge mistakes, lose all kinds of, the materials that you have, gained monetarily or otherwise. And it gets you actually ironically to the goal that you wanted,
Yeah.
So
Well, kind of the irony in that though really is that you can't really be anywhere else but now anyway. You can think about the future and you can think about the past, but you're always in the now. So if you can understand that at the depth of what I'm saying, then really there's nothing really to think about. You just like I'm stuck in now, so you can that's a relaxing sort of environment that you can just get used to rather than thinking about the future, you're thinking about the past. But in actual fact, as soon as you think about the past, you're still in now, and if you're thinking about the future, you're still in the now. So yeah, that's a kind of a bit of a trick they've played on us as well. So
right, that just because our imagination is where it is doesn't mean the imagination's still not happening.
It's still happening now. Yeah.
Yeah, very good point. So, my listeners, if you're interested in the app, which I really hope you give it a whirl and really learn this method, I have a code that you can get your first month off of the app. So it's Yummy23. So it's 1 month free when you purchase the annual subscription. It'll help you out, for getting started, little incentive for you to get started, which is helpful, especially a lot of people are stressed about money right now, which I totally understand. But, what's priority for you here? Like health, well-being, peace of mind, love, abundance, the things that you want, which will come when you do this work. So I think it's a really wise investment. And thank you for, really your husband for, put together and putting a huge project that's come from a long time ago now to now, but it's been realized and here it is. And so it's wonderful. And I really appreciate what it is and what you've done. And if you wanted to say anything else that maybe we didn't touch on about the app or any personal story or anything you think is really helpful, then we can do that.
Yeah, no, I'm really appreciative of you having me on the show. And yeah, really, if we can just get this out to the world and out to the people who are really looking for it, there's a lot of people out there in a lot of trouble and a lot of, psychological problems, physical symptoms. There's, the list is endless that people are just really in a really bad way at the moment. So I'm offering a glimmer of hope for these people that they can actually do something for themselves, take responsibility for themselves and find themselves, because underneath all of that confusion and craziness and pain and illness that everybody's sort of suffering through at the moment, there is the original. We tend to forget that, or don't actually even realize, because we live with the symptoms of pain and all the suffering. We've lived with it for so long now that it just becomes a familiar part of yourself, that you don't really understand that you can be any different to that. And in some cases, you don't even really know that is your behavior and that's what you're like. So by coming back to the feelings and resolving those feelings, you're really just lifting all of that confusion and part of yourself that you're constantly criticizing and judging and doubting and believing about yourself, the negative side. You're forgetting that that is a symptom, really. And the original you, the person that as you were born as a, a unique individual ready to grow and blossom and bloom into this world and to give the world the benefit of you, basically, where you're forgetting that is still in there. That is still there. It's just been smothered with all of this other stuff that has become confusion and unrecognizable for you. So there is, yeah, hopefully I'm offering a glimmer of hope for people that they can return to their like original selves, really, if you like. So yeah, that's the main reason that we have pushed so hard, I guess, on this project to try and bring it to life and get this out there. So hopefully we can. And with the help of you, that will be a great help as well.
Yeah, I'm actually going to integrate it into my 30 Days to Better Health course because I have a whole day dedicated to inward seeking meditation practices and things that, cool. I encourage people to begin to meditate if they haven't, or to remember their practice, at least to start and give them direction. So I'll integrate it into the course so that they can learn the natural way rather than, just watching clouds pass by or, which is fine. Sometimes people need a place to start or whatever, and wherever they're comfortable with. But this is a really important thing to add into it. So I'm going to do that.
Thank you.
And I really also like one of the aspects that was talked about, which is really grief and loss, because a lot of people are going through, a lot of people are going through grief and loss right now. And how we grieve and what that even is, because we do attach ourselves to other people and we pull in their world into our worlds, right? We have all these interactions and energies of that. And there's habits around it and expectations. And then when the expectation is away, so when they die or when they leave, we no longer can fulfill that, and that can bring like stress to our bodies, right? And that's the grief of the loss of what we were familiar with, those habits. And once we actually dive into that and realize what it is, we can release the pain and the suffering of their loss rather than continually cycling over in the grief, which I lost, 2 of my cats this summer and one elder boy, he was like almost 15. And that was a shock. It kind of just happened. And I just couldn't get out of the grief cycle. I just got sort of stuck in it because I also lost like a previous cat just last year. So it was like 3 cats and it was like piling on, and, but that one sort of discourse really helped me relate better to the way that I was grasping onto this loss of a need now. Like that need is now unfulfilled. And now I have a stress because I don't have that need met anymore. And I'm projecting it onto my world and I'm feeling, that sense of loss, that sense of confusion, all those energies. So I really find the discourse to be really helpful in a lot of these different topics, especially for me, the one on grief.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you found that one. Yeah, it's a big one, and it's something that most people at some stage in their lives need, they have to go through the process of grief. So yeah, if you can understand that you don't need to go on with the story and get caught in the emotional side of it, and if you can literally come back to just the feeling of grief, it does tend to pass and resolve relatively quickly, and probably a lot faster than people realize, because you're not getting caught in the story, because it's the story, the constant regurgitation of the story that attaches to the feeling, and then the feeling then turns into emotion because you've then mixed a bit of reaction with the feeling, and that turns into emotion, and then you just get stuck in this loop of just repeating the story, and this is what doesn't allow the feeling to resolve. Whereas if you can just stop the story, come back to the feeling, then the feeling's relieved and resolved, and then you can recover and move on. Yeah, it's relative. It sounds simple, but it's all explained in the app. So
that I wanted to highlight that because it's predominant right now in our world,
Mm.
not just losing people, but losing our way of living.
Yeah.
And there's grief on many levels, like the way society functions, the way our culture functions, the way belief systems are in our lives, like all of these things. When those change, or when we're waking up, right, when people are waking up to a lot of these
Yeah.
realities and they were asleep, there you can grieve the
Mm.
loss of your ignorance, even.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because
Yeah.
that, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't know,
Mm.
then whatever, right? So it's
Yeah.
like full circle. Yet you come into this, and then you integrate it so you can let it go again. And then, it's always a cycle. Everything's a pattern. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that, you guys discovered this particular natural pattern as well, which we're meant to come home to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's honestly, it's such a relief. Like every morning I sit and I'm just so happy to, like I get up in the morning and I go and meditate, but it's such a relief because as you say, it's like feeling it. I feel like I'm just coming home. I mean, I'm already home, but just in my body is just like just oozes with fulfillment and satisfaction, and just it's like, yeah, I honestly don't know how people survive without meditation these days. It's not a necessity. I mean, it's not a luxury anymore. It's an absolute necessity, especially with the information and the sort of trauma-based society that we're living in now. There's just way too much for people to be able to handle on, what they're not handling it, and that's the consequence of the society that we're living in. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
so hopefully this is a tool that can help people at least recover some of that sanity that we've lost within our communities.
Indeed. Well, great. Thank you so much, Cate. Thank you for your wonderful energy and explaining all of that. So people can go to the Undo app. It's in, I'm assuming, both types of stores, the Google and the Apple Play Store.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then I would get on that straight away. And so they can use the code Yummy23 if you want to get a discount, and get on your way here to, clearing up some of this extra debris inside of you and reset yourself, so that you can bring joy back in and clarity into your life and relieve so many things. It's just, yeah, I agree. If you're not meditating in this day and age, then you're going into dark paths. Now, there's times when I stop to see what happens, and then I do physical activity instead, more like I'll go the other way, where I'll like work out more my body. And like it's interesting because it's like a different whole yang method of feeling stuff. And it's, and I'll go back yin style of inward reflection, because I feel very inward when I work out. Now, not everybody's like that, but some people may have qigong practices or other external practices. Do you think that you could actually do a yang and yin mix, like where you're doing it, or do you have to just really just sit and be quiet and not and be still when you do this? Like, could you do it with another movement practice, like even walking?
Yeah, well, what I find as actually once you learn to feel, what inevitably happens is you get so good at it that literally your whole life you're just spending, like, I'm just feeling literally every sensation that goes on in my body. So when I go to the gym, for instance, so I just feel while I'm there, and then therefore I don't get so many injuries, because I'm feeling, I know where I'm at on that day. I know the stress levels in my body on that day, so I don't push it so hard on that day. So in that regard, you sort of, with this particular approach, it's not really just meditation for sitting, because you get so much understanding. So you're always applying the understanding to your life, but you're also feeling all your way through your life, because you're always, you're encountering different alerts and signals throughout the day. So you're just using your body as the sponge or the antenna that it's designed to be, and just taking everything in. And in that way, you sort of end up just meditating all the time. But I just like to sit in meditation because I just really like being still. I'm a bit like you, like I work out pretty hard at the gym, and I'm very active during the day with work, but I really just enjoy just lying on the couch as well and doing nothing, but also the sitting up in the meditation and in the retreats and things like that. It's just, I guess it's just like a more concentrated version of what I am for the rest of the day. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. Totally makes sense. Yeah. Great. I just wanted to clarify that. You're right. It becomes a way of living.
It is,
right?
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I learned that too with my meditation. I stopped doing the regulated practices, and it felt integrative, like I was doing it in my day to day and making those corrections as I was going, because the sensation is familiar and you're patterned in it. It's like making new habits. And as long as you don't fall out of the habit, that's good. But if you do, then you have to go back to get situated again. But I like that you said it's more about, it's time for you to do, it's peace. It's like you want to do it. It's not like, oh, I don't want, it's totally becomes a desire to do that because the benefits that come. So that's great.
Yeah. This particular approach anyway, I don't really know many people who don't love meditating, whereas with, I think, most other meditations, it's more of a discipline. It's like, oh, I've got to go meditate. But with this one, it's like, no, I can, I'll meditate anytime, even if I can't sleep at night, I sit up on the bed and meditate until I get tired, and then you're back off to sleep again. So yeah.
Brilliant. Awesome, Cate. Well, thank you so much. This was great. And we'll connect again and see how things are going, if upgrades or things, if, I'm sure the app can always have things added to it and over time. So we look forward to that. And my listeners will, I'm sure, have their interest piqued by this conversation. And thank you so much for everything that you and your husband have done. And thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah. Thanks for you too, Amanda. And thanks very much for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye for now.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.